What if I told you that the most audacious heist in British history, hundreds of millions in today's money, stolen from a moving train in under 30 minutes, was solved because a group of criminals decided to play Monopoly with the money they just stole? The 8th of August, 1963. 3 in the morning, a Royal Mail train is cutting through the darkness of rural England, heading from Glasgow to London, inside 120 mail bags. 2.5 tons of used banknotes, 2.6 pounds million. In today's money, that's north of $80 million. But here's what makes this story different from every other heist you've ever heard. Nobody planned this alone. There was a race car driver, a used car salesman, a retired army man, and one mysterious figure who set everything in motion, a man whose real name has never been confirmed. History knows him only as the Ulsterman. Who was he? Investigators spent decades trying to find out. Scotland Yard chased leads across 3 continents, and after 60 years, nothing. The man who lit the fuse simply vanished. But let's back up. Because before the Ulsterman, there was Bruce Reynolds. Reynolds didn't see crime as a profession, he saw it as art. Years later, he would describe this robbery as his Sistine Chapel, the masterpiece of his life. And like any masterpiece, it required inside information that nobody else had. That's where the Ulsterman came in. He passed Reynolds a single tip. That particular weekend was a UK bank holiday. Every major bank in Britain had been holding cash, and all of it, every last pound, was being shipped to London on one train. One window, one shot. Reynolds spent months building a team of 15 men, each one chosen for a specific skill. One man knew railway signals, another knew train mechanics. Reynolds even recruited a retired train driver because once they stopped the train, someone needed to move it. Almost every angle was covered. Almost. 3:03 a.m., driver Jack Mills spots a red signal up ahead and brings the train to a stop. What Jack doesn't know is that the signal is fake. The gang had covered the green light with a leather glove and wired a 6-volt battery to hold the red. Jack steps down to investigate. 15 masked men step out of the dark. Jack is struck in the head with a metal bar. He goes down, blood on the tracks. Jack Mills was just a man doing his job. He saw a red light and he stopped. That decision cost him everything. What followed took less than 30 minutes. The gang formed a human chain and moved 120 mail bags off the train and into waiting vehicles. 2.5 tons of cash gone. Before sunrise, 2.6 pounds million had disappeared into the English countryside. And then they made their first mistake. The gang hid at a farmhouse called Leatherslade Farm. The plan was simple: wait for the heat to die down, then scatter, and while they waited, they needed something to do. So they played Monopoly with the actual stolen money. Someone was supposed to burn the farmhouse down before leaving, destroy the evidence. That person never showed up. When Scotland Yard's flying squad tracked down Leatherslade Farm, they found everything. Food tins, clothing, fingerprints on every surface, and one Monopoly board covered in the fingerprints of men who'd just pulled off the biggest train robbery in history. A board game. That's what broke the case. Detective Superintendent Tommy Butler took personal command of the investigation. Butler wasn't a normal cop. He was obsessive. He made himself one promise: he would not retire until every single member of this gang was behind bars. He worked for years, followed leads across multiple countries. For Butler, this wasn't a case. It was a calling. January 1964, 12 members convicted, sentences of 25 to 30 years. Britain erupted. Half the country thought the sentences were outrageous. Because here's the thing, the public didn't entirely hate these men. They hadn't fired a single shot. They'd outplanned, outmaneuvered, and outrun the entire British law enforcement apparatus. In the newspapers, they read like characters from a thriller novel, folk heroes, anti-establishment legends. But the story wasn't over. 1. Ronnie Biggs scales the wall of Wandsworth Prison with a rope ladder, drops into a waiting van, flies to Paris, gets plastic surgery, and disappears. Australia, then Brazil. Biggs spent 36 years as a fugitive, always moving, always one step ahead, always one informant away from extradition. He came back voluntarily in 2001, sick, broke, beaten. Reynolds lasted until 1968. Mexico, Canada, France. Tommy Butler finally caught him in Torquay. But the biggest question was never about the men. It was about the money. Of 2.6 million stolen, police recovered only £343,448. The rest, more than £2 million, has never been found. Not one note. Not one trace. Where is it? Buried under a driveway somewhere in England? Laundered through shell companies that no longer exist? Spent quietly, carefully, over decades by men who knew exactly how not to get caught? Nobody knows. And the Ulsterman? Still a ghost. Some researchers believe he was Patrick McKenna, a postal worker from Manchester who had the kind of access that made the inside tip possible. His own children denied it. The man died poor, with no criminal record, no confession, and no evidence linking him to the crime. He took the answer to his grave. But here's the person nobody talks about. Jack Mills, the driver. The man who did nothing wrong, who saw a red light and stopped a train the way he'd been trained to do. He never fully recovered from that night. He went back to work in a limited capacity, but the headaches never stopped, the trauma never lifted. He retired in 1967. He died in 1970 at the age of 64. No film was made about Jack Mills. Nobody calls him a folk hero. No documentary opens with his name. But of everyone in this story, Jack is the only one who was completely innocent. So ask yourself who actually won. Reynolds went to prison. Biggs spent 36 years in exile and came home with nothing. The money is gone. And the Ulsterman, the one man who made it all possible, was never charged, never arrested, never even officially identified. He won. And nobody even knows his name. That's the real ending of the great train robbery. The masterminds got caught. The followers got caught. The innocent man paid the highest price. And the one person who walked away clean, the one who knew exactly where to stand when it all came down, remained invisible. Every massive crime has a man like that somewhere in the background. You just never hear about him, because that's the whole point.